Today we are chatting with a standout in the e-commerce space. Located right here in the Sutherland Shire, Cronulla-based Alan Monk was created by Chana in 2012, specialising in helping retailers and e-commerce retailers with growing their businesses. Her clients came to her when they were having problems selling their products online. Chana stepped up to learn as much as possible, questioning web developers, designers and other online retailers about store design, coding, customer service, freight and inventory management systems and processes. She is the host of Female Voices in the e-commerce podcast. Chana has also created and will be launching the Female Founders in e-commerce Mastermind. With so much to get through, I hope to get some amazing nuggets of wisdom. So, let's go. Hey guys, Nathan Rigney here, the profit generator, founder and owner of NGR Accounting. If you want to continue to watch our videos, remember to hit that subscribe button, hit the reminder bell and like this video to get all our future awesome content. Today we're talking to Chana, owner and founder of Alan Monk, located here in Cronulla. Thank you so much for joining me today, Chana. So, let's go. So Chana, hi.
G'day Nathan, nice
G'day,
to see you again.
You're well. Hey, so first question, thanks for coming down to the office down here and the podcast, or sorry, my YouTube. My first question I want to know is, why Alan Monk?
Oh, good question. So I started my business about 15 years ago as a freelance designer. When I progressed into specialising into the e-commerce space, I did a bit of a rebrand. So I was trying to think what would be a really good name to get people curious, but also to give them a bit of a tone about how I work. So we thought about it, and I worked with a branding expert, and we came up with the words Al and Monk, about being wise and simple with your process. So a bit like the monk.
Yeah, I really do like that. And before off camera, we had a bit of a chat about your name, and we're sort of reflecting on my business name, and it's so important, isn't it, just to really think about your brand and making sure it identifies and matches with what it is that you're doing and who you're serving.
I think for a few different reasons. So I think if you're looking at selling your business in the future, you want something that's not associated with your personal business name, so something that's adaptable to whoever that new person is that's going to take ownership. But I've also worked with a few clients that have gone through trademarking disputes. So if you ever go down a trademarking path, you want to make sure your business is as protected as it possibly can. And so through the very beginning of planning your business, like the business name, to have something that's not so common, that doesn't have any associations with particular words, can really help you protect your brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's great. Well, thanks for letting us know about that. So, brief intro about you. We now know about Alan Monk, which is awesome. So, tell us a bit more about your background. So, you're in the e-commerce space, but, you know, how did you get there? What's it all mean?
Yep, sure. So, originally when I went independent was about 15 years ago, after I did my Masters in Design at the University of New South Wales. And so I always liked being independent from the beginning. I like to be able to work directly with my clients and help them change their business and adapt and grow. But at the time I was specialising more in design and branding. So that's a really great way to get to know businesses and to help them understand themselves and plan for the future. So from the beginning I've always been very strategic with how I work. So my first branding client, they actually needed help to sell their products on eBay. And eBay has a very particular algorithm with how it actually rates a business when it's actually pulling up results against other businesses who are selling similar products. So for me to work with them, I had to provide design services and development, which was very niche because to code on eBay is very different to coding on a website. So I had to kind of throw myself in the deep end and learn how to do that to begin with. But then I really got attracted to the whole like e-commerce model because it was all about customer service first. So it was purely recognizing a different platform, which is online, but to be successful, you had to offer good customer service. And so, yeah, when I started the eBay stuff, I was like drawn in, and then that led to website design. And then it was more about, you know, the psychology and other different nuances of e-commerce and how it works from the customer journey of actually, you know, introducing your product to somebody in a physical space, whether or not it's retail or a pop-up or a market, and then kind of continuing that story or journey online.
Yeah. I mean, like, when I think about e-commerce, it's so funny, like, you know, so much time has passed since eBay's been around. Is eBay really relevant in e-commerce today?
I think it is. So I think it really depends on the type of business you are and what product you're selling. So eBay is a wonderful platform, especially in Australia, for businesses to launch their product online, whether or not they're producing their own products or selling like other branded products. There's no other way you can actually market your business and products to a large domestic audience in such a way. Like even with your own marketing through your website, like you have to have a huge budget, a good marketing plan and other strategies to execute to get your voice and your product out there at that volume. But at the same time, it's very saturated. So there's a lot of businesses on there selling very similar things. So it's a very hard space to compete in. And so probably the biggest challenge with selling on eBay is that you do not own the customer. So everything has to be communicated through eBay's platform. So you don't know any of your customer specifics. You don't know anything about them. You don't have any contact details. I like it to a degree because it means you as a seller are protected and so is the buyer, but it makes it really hard for you to continue selling on to that customer moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, like, if, say, for example, you have a website, the advantages of, I guess the advantages that I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you can probably sell a lot more once you've got their customer name, their details, and it's like you've got a repeat sale, whereas you're probably not going to have that on an eBay setting.
Yeah. I mean, my first customer that I worked with, my first client I should say, that I worked with on eBay, they had a very particular product where they actually custom manufactured their own range of engine conversion parts. So they're kind of in a niche space where there's no other business in Australia producing what they are. So they were using eBay as a way to really push their product out to an audience which didn't have any exposure. So they weren't really competing with anyone. It was a great platform for them to expose. You know, they actually started selling on eBay just to get rid of some excessive stock from the warehouse, and now it's become quite a prominent part of their business. So it's really interesting how in today's world that's still very relevant to that brand, because the vehicle category on eBay is very it is huge. So most people you talk to would have bought something vehicle related through eBay, because it's one of those places where you can get those hard to get things that may not be manufactured anymore or are a niche product. Go back to your question.
Yeah, no, no, that's all right. Look, I think just moving on, I mean, it sounds like really it depends on the type of industry or who you're serving. Yes. Based on that is going to sort of really determine your strategy that you're going to undertake when it comes to e-commerce.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for relevance, I think it's a great place to begin with if you haven't really explored the online space. But I think it's also really important to invest the time and the money to actually build your own strategy and to build your own e-commerce platform where you have full control.
Yeah.
Because this way you can really articulate your brand, you can take your customer on a journey, you can learn about who they are, and through that journey you can actually personalize how you market, how you sell, because it's always easier to resell to an existing customer than it is to acquire a brand new one.
Yeah. E-commerce is not a new thing that's been around. Like it's been around now for a good 20 years. And really, I mean, if we look at 20 years ago, it was probably really you just sold on an eBay. You had an eBay store.
Yeah.
Whereas now there's so many options, and I mean, with the likes of Instagram and
Absolutely.
Facebook, you know, really, I guess that's your lead generator where you got them coming in there and then going to your own website to buy.
Yeah, and it's an acquisition channel. So I no longer talk about online, offline commerce. Like I feel like it's just one harmonious picture where a business needs to be on both channels. So, you know, typically people might go online first to research a brand or a product, and then they may go into the retail store to actually finish the transaction, or it could work the other way around, because things at a high ticket price, you really want that time to actually think about that product, and you want to share it with your partner and make some good decisions. So, you know, at the moment we're looking at actually buying a new bed, and so we're kind of going through that research phase. And, you know, like the Sealy mattresses, they've actually got this really cool little tool where you can kind of work out the type of bed you want based on your preference. Like, do you sleep on your side? Do you sleep on your back? Are you sharing your bed with somebody? You know, all these different questions which give you a few more ideas of what you need without having too much choice. And then with that, I get all the specifications about that bed. You know, it helps me understand the technology behind it and why I was spending so much. But then, next step I'll do is I'll go into David Jones or a different shop and I'm going to try that bed. And I'm going to talk to you as a sales assistant. And then I'll probably still go back online until I make that decision. Because, you know, beds are expensive. So I think that's a typical journey for people to go on. So,
you know what? This is a really good segue for me to introduce my next question.
Oh, cool.
So, can you speak to the unique challenges and opportunities for women in the e-commerce space?
Yeah, okay. That's huge. So, women, how do I start this? I think it's an opportunity for all businesses, firstly. And I think COVID has taught us that we have to be online because our customers are online. So it's all about going where your customers are. Women statistically are the core people that shop in most families still. So there's very large statistics around that customer behaviour. It really depends on the type of product as well and the brand. There's a lot of female entrepreneurs, especially on the Shopify space, that have started a business on the platform, and it's actually tilting much higher than it is the male counterparts. So I think that's driven by a few different reasons. So there's trends around, you know, women in kind of that, you know, 30 to 40 age bracket that may have young kids. You know, they're seeking something more in their life. So, you know, they've run their careers. They want to have their lifestyle and flexibility back. They want to maybe potentially work, you know, school hours. So they're actually creating ideas and have created a website through the Shopify platform because of its ease of use. So that's kind of opened up a new market segment for some women. And it's just women, they learn, they shop, they behave quite differently. So it's a really interesting opportunity. The reality is there's women in every business. It's not about only being a female founder. It's like you'll find in most brands, in the team, you'll have women, or you should have women, because your customers are women as well. So regardless of what you sell, you need to be able to understand your total consumer, and that you may be able to segment that into male, women, different age demographic, different cultural backgrounds as well. So it's really important that you've got a diverse team to really understand that psychology around that consumer behaviour, so you can create a more personal response.
So really, I mean, what I'm hearing is sex is really a massive part of the strategy when you're thinking about selling on an e-commerce, or maybe even just selling in general.
I'd say it's more about diversity inclusion. So, you know, really understanding who your customer profile is, and then understanding your team and your offering, and making sure that you're accommodating through your understanding, because you can't just keep guessing what your customer wants. You actually have to talk to them, you have to interact with them, you have to be them. So, for example, if you've got a team and you've got like a diversity of age groups, like, you know what that 20-year-old shopper's doing versus, you know, your 40-year-old or your 60-year-old, because the reality is we all use technology differently, we've got different needs, we've got different budgets involved. So by having that diversity, you're getting a full spectrum of what the consumer is actually experiencing, so you can create a more personalised experience and response.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. What advice do you have for any aspiring female entrepreneurs in the e-commerce space?
Yeah, I think typically women, they don't have enough confidence in themselves, and they want to really understand something so uniquely before they'll even try it. But all I say is, if you've got a great idea and you're passionate about it, just start it. You know, no more thinking about it, like, just start acting on it. And I think this is where women actually work differently, is that they need that accountability factor and they need that collaborative model, so then people can kind of, you know, push them to actually start implementing and giving it a shot. Because starting a business, you've got no idea, you know, and if you just try and assess everything you need to achieve at the beginning, you're never going to start. Realistically. So you just have to take that first step, then the second step. You might stuff up, and I've stuffed up a lot, but you always return back and you learn and you reiterate. And so I think women need to just gain that confidence to actually take those next steps.
Is it almost like, would you say that it's almost okay to fail?
Within reason, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. So the biggest thing that I stalled in business was I didn't ask for help. I wanted to not present anything until I had it polished, you know, and I think that probably stalled me by about 2 to 3 years with my business. So now I feel like I'm in this really comfortable space where I'm like, I've got an idea, it feels good, like, I trust my intuition, I'll give it a shot, you know, like, that's a very different me than I would have been 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's massive, isn't it? And I have to agree. I think like for any person or any business owners or any entrepreneurs wanting to start a business, it's just investing that initial time with someone who's already been there, done it, and they can help you really define on who it is you're serving, what your vision is, what your mission is, all those real basics. But like, I guess even like having someone to push you on the other side about your concept or your idea, to go, well, is it right, is it wrong? But it's all about what's in your mind, right? But it's just challenging you about your thoughts and to,
Absolutely. I mean, the reality is when you start a business, not many people know about it, which is a good, bad thing. So it means if you stuff up, probably no one's going to notice except for you. Yep. So you've got your own pride and you've got to learn to accept certain things. But I think it's really important to either have a mentor or somebody you can share ideas with that's going to push you. And sometimes you need a group of people maybe that's more informal that can help you on that journey as well. So again, this is why networking is so important, and you know that yourself, like to expose yourself to different people and having conversations, you can learn little things along the way. And personally, I've learned so much through a mentor, but also my clients and my networks as well. Yeah.
That's cool. Let's move into your podcast, which is Female Voices in E-commerce podcast.
Yep.
Tell me about this.
Yeah, so this one's probably been fermenting for a couple of years, this idea. So I finally brought the podcast to life at the beginning of last year, and we launched on International Women's Day, which was quite fun.
Oh, beautiful.
So I really wanted to tell the stories about female founders, entrepreneurs and advocates. I find storytelling is a really great way to get to know people, but also to learn. I just felt it was a little bit selfish meeting all these amazing women and keeping all that knowledge to myself. So I wanted to give them a platform so they could actually get exposure for their businesses as well. But, through those stories, people could actually learn from their experiences and also their strategies as well of how they've coped with different scenarios. So I tend to go through a couple of themes with them. So I always like to get to know who I'm talking to, because I think, there's a lot to learn with how somebody's actually got to a certain point in their life, career or business. And you can kind of see where the strategies and the passion comes from as well. But then I kind of get into more personalised questions around like female entrepreneurship, what it means to you to actually be a female entrepreneur, favourite technology, because, we are in the tech space. So everyone has different things that they go to every day in their business, and it's a great forum to actually be able to share that information. Mental health was a really good question that we often discuss as well, because quite often these women are running families as well as businesses. They may have two businesses, they may have other things drawing their attention, and mental health is so important to protect, because if you can't actually have a clear mind and feel happy, you probably aren't going to be your best self. So it just makes running business and life much harder otherwise. So what else do we talk about? It's hard not to record for too many hours because it is very specific, and I like to get into the depths of each answer. Oh, and also we talk about strategies and trends. So it's all about understanding the different industry that each of my guests are actually pioneering, because there's some trends that kind of cross over the whole e-commerce space, but then some to do with fashion or sustainability.
So maybe tell us about some of your favourite episodes that you've recorded.
I don't have favourites, Nate.
Well, what's one that stands out the most?
Oh, they're all very good. I say they're very good from a storytelling, but this is a new endeavour, so having to learn the technology, it's been a lot of learning, so I know it's not perfect, but we're getting there. I'll probably highlight the very last podcast, because it's the one I've just recently released. So I spoke to a lady named Frances Lowe, who is located in Auckland, New Zealand, and she runs a business called Low Claire, which is a sustainable fashion model. So what's really interesting about Frances's story is that she's a made-to-order business only. So once a month, she releases for 3 to 4 days her products for sale through her website. Now, this is unique because she then takes those orders in over those 3 to 4 days, closes shop, will not sell, and then she custom she custom makes those products through that period, which means that she's got no waste. She has no, size 14 sitting on a shelf waiting, collecting dust. She doesn't have to put her products on sale. So she's purely making to order for every product that already has a home, which I think is a really interesting model.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing she does really interesting as well is she's got transparent pricing. So if you go onto her website or Instagram page, she actually puts a receipt up there and she shows you how much it costs to manufacture that garment. So, you know, design, fabric, manufacturing, marketing, website, postage, all that is kind of consolidated onto that receipt. And it just shows you as a consumer, okay, this is why I'm spending a bit more, but I get it now because obviously there's so many things involved in that manufacturing process from the time I order to receiving that good. And so the customers then receive their product within 4 weeks. And what's really interesting that she told me is that bigger brands, they actually charge probably about 20 to 30% more on products because they have to allow for the wastage, because they're going to end up with stuff they're going to have to put on sale that's going to go away for free, given to charity, into landfill, because they're never going to sell it. So a made-to-order model means no waste, it's good for the environment, and it's actually keeping costs down for the consumer. Yeah, well, so it's interesting.
Well, we definitely have to get that out into let everyone know about it, and I'll be listening to that.
Oh, cool, I hope so.
Hopefully in the next week.
Yeah, but what's interesting as well, like, I talk about these businesses like Frances's, but then I talk about their personal life as well. And so through COVID, she actually reached out to the Chinese community in Auckland because she's like half Chinese, half Kiwi, and if I said that right. So she realised there were a lot of women who were kind of in that similar position that needed a community. And of course of COVID, like obviously communications were so limited, so she actually created her own kind of unique community at the time, all through cooking and sharing like of knowledge, which I thought was a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the 14th of February, you're launching the Female Founders in E-commerce Mastermind.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Here in the Shire, and the 28th in Zetland. So this is an e-commerce mastermind. So this is an in-person mastermind. It's not online. Tell us more about this course and who's it really designed for?
Hang on a second. So from February, I'm really excited to be releasing the first mastermind that I've run through my business. I deliberately wanted to create an event that was in person. Through the pandemic, I ran quite a few online networking and community events, including panel discussions. They were great at the time because they unified people globally at a time where we needed connection and there was so much confusion, etc. But there's something unique that really comes out in a room where you've got like-minded people together that is just really hard to recreate through the online space. And I think to be able to bring people together where they're not distracted by business, by life, and they're purely focused on their business, something really unique actually happens. Yeah. So I'll be hosting the mastermind in 2 locations to make it quite accessible to different women who can come. So the first one's launching 14th of February here in Sutherland Shire. I deliberately want to bring something local because I feel like we do not have enough specific niche style events for business owners in the Shire. Quite often we have to actually travel to the city to actually find similar kind of forums to actually engage in. But also to accommodate that, there's a lot of amazing women in the city as well. So we're having a second event at the end of the month, just in Zetland on the outskirts of the CBD. Yeah,
like I definitely see what you're saying there. Like it's definitely down here in the Shire, but also different communities all over Sydney. We have great people, and there was always this conceived perception that to get the best you had to go to the city. And I think really, even now, like that's always been the case for a very long time. But I think with COVID, it really sort of flipped that idea and sort of really brought it more to light, especially when, you know, I guess these talented people went, hey, I don't actually need to travel to the city anymore. I can work where I want to work.
Absolutely.
So, congratulations on sort of bringing everyone together in the area.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, they live.
But Sutherland Shire in particular, we have a very large demographic of small business operators here as well. You know, Tim Boyle has opened at Nanstow, the Innovation Hub, you know, you've got the Chamber of Commerce, you've got other local networks and business initiatives going on here because we have so many small businesses. And when you look at that statistically, it's like, well, it makes perfect sense we localise as much as we can. Like, I love kind of extending beyond communities as well because I think each shire, or even like going internationally, can bring something really unique to the table that you wouldn't have thought locally. But I also think there's some really strong community here as well, and I'm quite excited to bring, you know, the female founders who work in e-commerce in the Shire together because the more they can leverage off each other for support and collaboration, the more successful they're going to be, because it's much easier to do. You know, they can go for a breakfast walk, you know, on the Esplanade, or go for coffee, because it's just so easy, rather than having to make an appointment and go to the city once a week, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then that's why I decided to offer the Mastermind at a localised venue here called a niche space, just to bring those women together once a month for 3 months.
Okay, great. So what prerequisites should a participant hold before they attend the eCommerce?
Yeah. So the magic happens when you've got a like-minded group of individuals together. So because I work in e-commerce, and because I've worked with so many talented female founders in the space, I want to bring together women of that background. So if you're a female founder or entrepreneur who runs their own e-commerce business, you could be a brand which makes and designs your own products. You may actually wholesale, you may have a physical store, or you could purely just sell online. So each of those businesses will fill the criteria. But the main thing is, if you're a woman who is inspired to make change and you want to actually have the connection and a group of really talented, experienced women to share your knowledge and to leverage off, I think it's a great opportunity for you to join.
And so could you be in any stage of business? Like, could you be
absolutely.
startup? Could you be establishment? Could you sort of be, you know?
I think it would be really nice to actually have a mixture of those businesses. So I don't want to be, you know, only oriented to one developmental stage of business, because I feel each of those business types are really bringing something unique to the table. You know, the startup comes in with a beautiful naivety because they haven't done it before, but the startup could have come from a very, you know, successful other business or worked in corporates. They've actually got maybe some really good knowledge on, say, marketing and SEO, etc. But then they're trying to like transition. But then you kind of got that mid-level business, which has obviously trialed a lot of different strategies and is now looking at exploring other things. Or maybe they are just too busy now because their business is chugging on quite great, which is awesome, but they're too busy working in their business that they need to actually have the space that they can actually focus on focus on working in their business rather than on their business.
Yeah, so really just take them out of that zone. But
absolutely.
I think I could even see these startups, these people who are so energised, because you know that like when you start a business, you're so pumped. I see it all the time. Like,
it's cool, isn't it?
Someone starting a business, they're so pumped, but then when they get to that level where growth is starting to plateau and they're getting to that maturity stage, you can see that that oomph or that energy they had isn't there. So I could see where a mix of people coming together, especially these startups and these, you know, I guess those who are in that mature stage of their business, they've got that maturity where, hey, look, like you said, they know what they're doing, they've been there, done it before, but it's like the startups are going to really push their mindset about what they're doing. And
yeah, and it's the same as like bringing in a team. Like, you hire a really young person, they might have any experience, but they're worldly. Like, they're used to being on the technology all the time. They think things differently than what you do. So it's great to kind of bring in that energy and a different type of mindset. So I think it's quite exciting to have a group of different individuals in the room, but they've all got a commonality of what they're doing as well.
Yeah, beautiful. I think I did have a couple of questions here about what kind of support and resources are provided to the members, but I think you kind of really answered that.
So the Mastermind itself, I think the main magic comes out of when you've got a group of women collectively in the room together. The premise is it's about the accountability. So, you know, you commit to go to the 3 sessions, you know, you're attentive, you're sharing, you're learning, and the accountability piece is probably one of the things that's most valuable, because you become so inspired with the ideas in the room, but you need a little bit of a timeline. Sometimes you need a push to actually bring that to life for the next session. And when you're accountable to people, you have that guilt then, so it kind of pushes you to get in there. I'll be facilitating it, so I will be actually engaging with the group throughout the month through a shared WhatsApp group, and I will be providing a few resources as well. So it's more about, you know, me sharing my knowledge as an expert, a strategist, and somebody who's used a lot of implementation strategies. But I've also worked with different clients of different sizes and development, so I could extend my knowledge. But to bring these other women in the room, they're going to introduce a whole different perspective as well. Yeah.
So the last question one of the last questions I've got is, what can your participants expect to gain from this masterclass?
Yeah, so I think they'll have a renewed energy. They potentially would have acted on quite a few of their action items as well. And then they'll also have a great community that they can continue to leverage off and, expand their business because they've got somebody to fall back on. Because too often, you get caught working in your business, you may work alone, you may have a small team or people that don't quite understand. So to be able to throw a message out to somebody via WhatsApp or to have a coffee with somebody, it's going to keep you inspired and it's going to keep you engaged much longer than if you just were trying to do it yourself, because it's too easy to get caught up in the day-to-day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, having that support there.
Absolutely.
Because, it depends who's around. Especially for those who are on their own, running their own show, and they're just a sole entrepreneur, they don't have that person. They might have a partner, but maybe the partner's not engaged on the same level. So to have that group of people that can support you.
Yeah, partners are great from lots of different angles, but they may not be in the industry or they may think very differently. So my partner's a plumber, so for me talking to him about creative is it's two very different things. And he's been immensely supportive, but I can ask him certain questions, but I actually need to leverage off my networks for others. So
absolutely, it's funny. Here in my business, the business matters I have, I can talk to my staff open and freely about it, and because I'm very trusting in that, and we have great communication here. But it's funny that with my wife, I won't talk to her about a lot of the stuff that's happening in the business, because the problem is she's got to understand a whole lot of things before we get to that point where we can actually talk about what my problem is, or the ability for me to vent for her to even actually understand and push back.
But there's also this boundary too. So it's part of it is they don't understand because they haven't got the full context. But you also want to go home, you want to switch off. You want to be able to just engage in this beautiful relationship you have and focus on, cooking dinner or doing something outside and just enjoying your time together, that you don't want to get bogged down on a challenge you had at the time unless it's kind of really impacted the two of you. So I think it's really good to be able to define the difference between work mode and casual mode. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So lastly, last question, how do my viewers find you if they're interested in reaching out to you?
Well, number one, contact Nathan, because obviously you're building a great network here in the Shire, and you've got a great way of kind of building the rapport with entrepreneurs, etc. But probably the easiest thing is to probably leverage LinkedIn. I think that's a great way to connect with me as a person and a business. So it's through my name, Chana Imsirovic. You going to do show notes?
I'll do the show notes. They're going to be in there.
But if you are interested in the Mastermind, I do have a specific landing page for that on my website, which will also be in the show notes. Or you can contact me directly through my email.
Well, that's pretty exciting. So I think anyone who's in that e-commerce space currently or thinking about entering it, you're definitely the person to reach out to, and just really having that initial investment with you can save you so much time. And I do stress that I do see so many startup businesses where it's that first 1 or 2 years where they've wasted is a very strong word, but there's definitely a lot of waste in their time where they could have actually saved quite a bit of time, maybe cut that down by 75%. That's not to say you're still not going to, I guess, have mistakes, but or have lessons that you're going to learn from. But reach out to someone like yourself. I think it's a big advocate of.
Yeah, I think it's immensely hard when you're starting a business. It's immensely hard at any stage. You've just got different challenges, but I think sometimes you just need to reprioritize, and it's so much easier to do the easy things, which aren't actually going to be the things that are going to be as impactful. And so the Mastermind is really designed to help you bring to the forefront what those core things are that are really going to help you grow as a business. It may be like problem solving something that's been challenging you for a while, or it could be something that's going to help you take a big step in actually your growth and development as a business. And in the e-commerce space, it may be, you want to leverage to a new market. So you might want to try selling your products internationally, which is a whole different business model that you really have to have a strategy in place. So that could be a good forum for you to really approach with a like-minded group of people that have already done that before or are considering it as well. So it makes it less daunting, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And also, it's exciting opportunities. So I think come to a room, if you're excited, people are excited, and the magic is actually going to help you actually bring that to life. So
yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Very
awesome.
good.
So join us for the Female Founders Mastermind that's going to be on this February, either locally in the Southern Shire or in the city. And city slickers, you're welcome to join us over the Shire if you dare cross the bridge. We are not scary.
Whereabouts in the Sutherland Shire are you holding the Mastermind?
Mastermind's going to be hosted at the Niche Space, which is just at the back of Tarrant Point here. It's a lovely little shared co-working space. It's quite industrial looking. It's really groovy actually. So I think it's great to be able to go to spaces. Get those creative juices Absolutely,
coming out.
To go to spaces which are quite motivating to go to. I actually produced a podcast there. They've got a dedicated podcast studio. And then over at Zetland, there's a place called Watso's, which is another co-working space. And again, it's a brilliant space, beautiful timber everywhere, and just nice big open windows, and a group of great individuals that are kind of running the businesses there as well.
Cool.
So,
all right. Well, Chana, thank you so much for joining us today. I really do appreciate your time and discussing everything with us. We will, of course, leave links in our show notes about Alan Monk and your podcast and your mastermind. And we will also share on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, everything about you and your business. So, thanks for joining us, and I really do appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Nathan, for the opportunity. Come and join us at the Female Founders and eCommerce Mastermind.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. If you want to continue to watch our videos, remember to hit that subscribe bell, like the video, and be sure to get all our awesome content. I'm Nathan Rigney, the Profit Generator. I look forward to seeing you next time.